Today, I'm honored to feature Champion Fulton, a jazz pianist and vocalist hailed as the most gifted, pure jazz singer of her generation by Mark Stryker of the Detroit Free Press. With a career spanning over 20 years, 18 albums as a leader, and performances in more than 25 countries, Champion has established herself as a torchbearer of the jazz tradition. With her captivating audiences at Birdland or collaborating with legends like Lou Donaldson and Jimmy Cobb, Champion continues to bring joy and timeless artistry to the jazz world. So, Champion, good to see you. Thank you for coming on today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So, Champion, I thought a good place to start would be talk about the first time I became aware of your music when you sang with Lou Donaldson at the Village Vanguard. Rest his soul. That was an incredible performance. And have you been finding yourself drawing inspiration from your relationship with him over the last, month or so, being that he just passed?
Oh yeah. No, I've been thinking about Lou a lot. But first, I have to ask you, were you there at the Village Vanguard?
I was.
So like that's like 10 years ago or something.
More.
Like yeah, I was gonna say I think the first time I sat in with him there was 2006 or 7.
This was 2009 or no,
Okay,
2009 or 10, something like that, or
right.
11.
Okay. My gosh, that's crazy. Yeah, I think I sat in with Lou at the Vanguard, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 times. Like I said back then. And then I sat in with him at Birdland. We played a gig together, actually. He hired me to do a Jazzmobile, the summer series, like in the literal Jazzmobile, also many, many years ago. But we were friends for a little more than 20 years.
Wow.
I met him when I moved to New York. Well, I met him on the jazz cruise the year before I moved to New York. Um, which was 2002. And then I moved to New York, and for some reason I had this feeling that I just really, of course I loved his music, but I had this feeling that I wanted to be his friend, which I think is kind of an odd thing these days because I feel like a lot of us don't think about friendship that way. But I was drawn. I was like, no, we're going to be friends. And it was at the Vanguard, and I went to see him. And after the show, I went back to the kitchen, backstage, and I said to him, I think we should be friends because we both like Charlie Parker.
And he was receptive.
Well, he was packing up his horn and he looked up at me like, and he said, What? I said it again. And then he was like, What do you know about Charlie Parker? And, he had a high voice and I said, Well, and, and I was transcribing something and I started singing it. And he just looked at me like I was kind of crazy. And he said, Well, okay, and then I sat down and I mean, I was 17 or 18 at the time. And I sat down and he just kept packing up his horn and he was like, well, what do you want? And I said, well, tell me a story about Charlie Parker.
And you're,
And
when you're 17, you're still, it's almost like you're
yeah.
young and kind of innocent in that way. You're still, you're a kid.
Oh, definitely. Very innocent and very like honest, and very like pure. And I think he could see that. And I think he also was a very honest person. And that's how we became friends. And we really became friends from that. Like the whole first few years, I think was we just basically talked about like Bird and music. And he came to see me play. And, I went to all their gigs. So, I mean, he saw me all the time. And then over the years, we became really close. So yeah, he did pass away now almost a month ago,
Yeah.
3 weeks or so, at the age of 98. He made it to his 98th birthday. So that was really something. But that's
Yeah.
so funny that you were there.
Yeah, I mean it's a small world. We always, we the jazz world is big, but it's also small at the same time. So, let's talk a little bit about, your own voice as a vocalist. There's so much to draw from in the jazz history and even in the 21st century, some wonderful vocalists. What point did you start to feel that you were coming into your own and you felt like you authentically were able to sound like yourself and had your own voice?
That's it's kind of a question with many answers because I wanted to be a jazz musician from like age 5. So I was really it's been a long journey.
Five.
like when you go to school and like you go to kindergarten and they say, draw what you want to, you draw what you want to be.
Hmm.
I totally drew myself like on stage, like as Billie Holiday or something, like that's what I wanted for 5. Because my father's a musician and I was really drawn to it, like the music and the camaraderie of the musicians and the glamour of getting dressed up for the shows, so that's what I wanted to do. My favorite jazz vocalist at the time and still is Dinah Washington.
Hmm.
Then as I got a little bit older, I got into Billie Holiday, I got into Sarah Vaughan. Of course, I've spent time with Ella Fitzgerald, and then male singers too, Joe Williams, Jimmy Rushing, Frank Sinatra. Um, but I think, even as a child, I had an idea of what I wanted to do, even if I wasn't always executing the idea.
When you were younger, did you have a like a certain like this is the way I want to sound? Like you could hear it, and even as a young child, you think?
Well, as a young child, I just wanted to sound like Dinah Washington,
Hmm.
for like 10 or 15 years. And I mean, she has, of course, everyone has a distinctive voice, but she has a really distinctive, huge voice. Um, and I always was sort of disappointed that I just couldn't get that. Even though I think people would say I have a big voice, maybe, but it's not Dinah Washington. And in my head, it was Dinah Washington. And then I would hear the recording and I'd be like, what is that? Um, so I was always really focused on this idea that I had of my individual sound. But I would say this is going to sound funny because I've been doing it such a long time, but I think after age 30, and now I'm giving away some clues as to how old I am, but I finally started to feel like, oh yeah, I'm finally like I'm making progress.
Hmm.
And
So a
that's
long time.
yeah, really, yeah, really long time.
Well, I think, you haven't taken a shortcut. That's 100%. When you're saying it, that's reality. It takes, years and years and years to find yourself out. Um, are you still, how do I say this? Still being inspired in the same way you were by those first
Mm.
recordings you listened to? Do you still go back and listen to them?
Oh yeah, totally. Totally. I mean, my favorite recordings are still my favorite recordings. I mean, of course, there's so much music. So I listen to other things. I get exposed to other things and I get into other things, but then it's like when you go back and you hear those records from your youth, you're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, that's great."
Yeah, you sometimes listen to things you did when you were a child that may not even be necessarily jazz, but you just
Um,
get into that headspace. Um, and you're performing all the time. You maintain this active schedule for years and years and years. Do you still find performing a challenge in any ways, or does it feel like home to you? Do you get nervous? Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
I love performing.
Hmm.
I used to get nervous, like when I was a teenager, I would get nervous. I would say all the time, like 100% of the time I'd get nervous. And then it started to lessen and lessen and lessen the more I did it. And I would say now I really rarely get nervous. I just get more like excited because I love it. And as you said, it's like home. So I really want to do it. And, and now my life is such that I travel a lot. So, you're flying and you're driving and then you're at the hotel and then you've got sound check. And by the time you get to the gig, it feels like, oh, I've been trying to get to this gig for like a long time. So I'm just like excited to get up there and play.
And
Um,
even with all the traveling and the things you have to deal with on the road, you're still able to let go and just sing, just play, and just be
oh, yeah.
there.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, well, the other thing is I actually really love traveling,
Hmm.
even though it is terrible. Like flying and there's all the people and there's traffic and everyone's in a bad mood and they lose your bag and the hotel is room isn't ready and the da da da. But I just kind of like it. I really enjoy it. And then when we get to the gig, that's my place. So
No,
I love it.
no, that's great. You're talking about you're enjoying the travel and this lifestyle of being a jazz musician. There are those sacrifices you have to make. You have to go on the road. You have to travel for hours and hours, even if it means to sing for an hour or two or something. There's a lot of mystery about what it is to be a jazz musician from the outside looking in, and young jazz musicians who want to get into this business as well. is there a misconception about this life you maybe feel a little, you feel kind of strong about, like, oh, I wish more people understood this, that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was thinking about this last night, when I was playing a gig, actually. I don't know if there's really a lot of misconceptions, except I feel like now we're in this new like TikTok age. And I think I see a lot of young people have this idea that it's kind of about that, like it's about TikTok or it's about likes or it's about
A brand, right?
a brand and it's about fame, quote unquote, or stuff like that. And to me, it's not about those things. Like those things, maybe those things are fun, and I know they're part of the industry now. But to me, the thing is really about playing music for the people wherever you are. So like I just love to play. So like last weekend I was out in California, or I mean, before Thanksgiving I was out in California, and I played at the new Jacobs Music Center in San Diego. I mean, it seats 1,800 people and it was
Wow.
full. It was great. And then I came back to New York, and on Thanksgiving Day I played Thanksgiving for some friends of mine. I do this every year. It's like 25 people, and I do like a sing along for the kids. To me, both those gigs were great and fun and fulfilling me as a jazz musician. But of course, only one of them, I guess, would look good on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok actually, but but I feel like that's kind of a misconception going on right now.
Well, I think what's interesting is that, you mentioned TikTok and stuff, which is, you're looking at your phone and whatnot, and everything is like 15 seconds, but this music is about being in front of people face to face and long songs and being present with people. So it's,
Yeah.
I really, I'm enjoying hearing you talk about that. And like you said, you still feel the same whether you're doing the Thanksgiving performance or you're playing in this big venue.
I think so. I mean, I'm not gonna I mean, for me, it's not so much a challenge anymore, but it used to be, because I came to New York and I was working, like I was a working musician, and you play gigs, you play hotels, you play restaurants, you play birthdays, people are talking, it's loud, maybe even people make stupid requests, they make whatever, and then you start to play these settings that are like concerts, and they're totally they can feel very different. And if you play a lot of concerts and then you go back to these noisier gigs, I think some people are like, oh, the gig where people are talking is less important than the concert. But to
Mhm.
me, they're really the same thing. And like you should be having the same feeling on both gigs and be delivering the same, quote unquote product, whatever that, maybe that's not the best word, but you should be delivering the same performance as yourself.
Well, I think what it comes down to is that you just love to do what you do and you're going to do it regardless if it's here or there, and you're going to enjoy it as much as possible. Um and that's great to hear. I think that's the sign of a true artist.
Thank you. Thank
Um
you.
so what do you think, we're talking about a career that spans, over 2 decades. At this point, what are you most grateful for? Is it those performances? Is it the friendships that you've had with people like Lou? What is just something you say, I'm so happy that this has happened to me, or anything come to mind?
Well, I think I really wanted to be a jazz musician. And I think when I wanted to be, when I was 5 years old, I didn't totally understand what that meant completely. But now I think I have a better understanding of what it means completely. And I feel that I have achieved it. And I'm very grateful for that because it's a difficult, and not only job, but, lifestyle and keeping your sense of joy in
Oh,
our
it's brutal. It's brutal. It
yeah,
can be.
a lot of rejection, a lot of things that are unpleasant. So I think being able to still enjoy it, I'm very grateful that I've been able to do that. And a lot of that is from people like Lou, who is my friend, who helped me, to see that and sort of stick with it. And I'm happy that I've been able to do that. I'm happy about my band. Like I love my band. I love playing with them wherever we play. And I feel like that's something to be grateful for right there.
Was the performance you did in California, was that like um one of the most special performances you've had in in like the last year? Like, has there any been one performance in particular where you just felt like this is the peak of what I can do right now? Because there's good nights, there's bad nights, there's so many factors that come into play, sounds of the room. What was the highlight for you this year, you think?
Gosh, I don't know. I've had a lot of really nice shows. That show in San Diego was really fun in that this is the second time I've worked for them. They're such a first class organization. Like they really want to make you comfortable. The space is beautiful. It was an interesting program because it was like an all-star configuration. So I wasn't with my band, but that was super exciting and fun too. I played with John Clayton and Matt Wilson
Oh
and Ricky.
wow.
Yeah, so it was like really fun and it was beautiful. And I'm a girl. I liked what I wore. That's also important. So that was a great show, but I've had a lot of really nice experiences over the past year.
No, that's great. You have the performances and the schedules to look forward there. It's important to have things to look forward to, and I think that certainly keeps the creative juices flowing. But do you like we can still maybe get like writer's block, or we're just trying, you know what I mean, moments of pause. So how do you handle moments like that where things just don't seem to be, the everything's not running 100% to get through that?
To be honest, I actually feel like this whole past year has been a little bit like that for me, the whole past 12 months, because I moved last Christmas. I do not recommend moving during the holiday season. Total drag. Um, and then some people will know this because it was on Facebook, but I had some health issues. I had to have surgery in August. I had to take like a month off. And that was really hard. Basically, those periods where I'm not busy or where I'm not feeling really inspired have been super challenging for me throughout my life, because I love to be busy and I love to feel good. And if I don't feel good, I just feel frustrated and angry, which doesn't help. Um, but I feel like this year has sort of taught me that it's okay. Like things are up and down, and that is a part of the longevity of life. Um, and I just try to go with it, if and then just enjoy living. So it's the holiday season right now. I have really just been enjoying, the Christmas decorations and just trying to like be more in the moment. I feel like we hear that phrase a lot, but it I think it really resonates with me. And when I spoke about this, I talked about this with Lou Donaldson because I was like,
You mean
gosh,
about being in the moment, you mean?
about being like in this period where things are not great.
Okay, okay. Hmm.
Where you don't feel inspired, you're not having a great career moments, or you don't feel that way, and you just sort of feel a little bit like, very meh, basically. Um, and Lou was just like, yeah, welcome to middle age.
Yeah.
He
No,
was like, there you go.
he's totally right. And Lou was a legend. Let me ask you this because I'm kind of I'm always interested to ask people this question. There's been so many, larger than life people throughout this music. But let's say like you're where you are now and you go back into the 1960s. Who would you have liked to work with that's no longer here?
Well, a lot of people. I mean, I really wanted to be a messenger. I wanted to play with Art Blakey.
Hmm.
Because of course, I'm a huge fan and I love like all his piano players and all the music and the idea of that band. I would have liked to have been in that band. I also, of course, I think many people would have liked to have been in Ellington's band. I mean, Ellington himself is the piano player in that band, but why couldn't there be two?
That's
Um,
fine.
like,
I get it.
yeah, why not? I think those are the two big like bands that I would have liked to have played in.
No, that's great. So in terms of your working band now, obviously, certain people can't make it for certain reasons. And what do you look for in the musicians that you would hire to accompany you? Are there is it more of a personal thing? They have to have a certain energy. Maybe the way they play is a little bit different. Like there are these little things we feel like anything like that going on?
I really want players around me who are really committed to excellence on their instrument and their music. So they're really serious about it, but at the same time, they just keep a real feeling of like playfulness and fun because I think it should be fun. So I want people who have big ears, who have ideas, and who are having fun.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
That's most important. They're able to let go and just and love it.
Yeah, because I mean it's very serious and like I mean I don't love, but we rehearse and things are serious like that and you want things to be good and in a sense perfect if there's an arrangement or something. But you also want people to be inspired all the time and like throwing things at you and a sort of playfulness, which is how I think about the Messengers band if you listen to Blakey and them, like they're having fun.
Oh, definitely. You hear like shouting and stuff, and
Yeah, and like just all the different ideas, you can feel the camaraderie there.
yeah. So and you talked about what when Lou said welcome to middle age, and it's as you get older, you might find yourself mentoring someone else who's younger than you are. So like let's imagine you're mentoring a younger musician. What should they know about this business? Maybe something. What do they need to know if they want to survive, you think?
I think the most important thing is to really stay true to why you got into this music and don't let the industry and don't let life like derail your passion and your ideas about your art.
Hmm.
Don't become too obsessed with social media or gigs or competitive with your peers. You know, I mean, a certain sense of competition is good, but I really believe that, a rising tide raises all boats. You want to see your peers succeed. Don't be jealous of their gigs, be supportive and try to keep your heart happy.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's interesting you say that because I was thinking about this, and social media, it was still kind of new when I went to college. Facebook just came out, and like I used to be very competitive. I'm wondering like, well, I wonder if Facebook didn't exist, would I like be so as competitive as I used to be? Because we're just what everyone else is doing is just coming right at us.
it
Now,
is.
mhm.
Yeah. I think that's true. I mean, I think it's in our nature because our business is like art mixed with entertainment, mixed with you need to make money because you need to live. So I think it's normal to feel competitive, like,
Mhm.
and to be like, oh, that guy's got a good gig. I wish I had that gig. But there's a real difference between that and wishing he didn't have that gig.
That's true. Yeah.
Like everyone can, you can want the game. I mean, of course, like I see people play or, you see somebody do this big thing and you're like, I wish I was doing that. But you don't necessarily want to take it away from that person who's doing it.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting way to look at it. Like, so you said, like, I want that gig, but don't wish that they didn't have that, just putting negative stuff out there.
Yeah, like everyone can, like I like to say, everyone can have the nice gigs. Like there's enough gigs and there's enough nice gigs. And actually, the more nice gigs there are, actually, the more nice gigs there are. It grows. Like if we grow as a community together, then everyone benefits. And my father's always telling me like every gig can't be Carnegie Hall. Every year can't be the best year of your life necessarily. So I think it's just important to keep focused on your music and on your craft and try to stay happy and in love with life as you age.
Yeah, no, that's so good to hear. This has been great. So, I'm really learning a lot, and I'm sure the audience is going to gain a tremendous amount of insight. Before we wrap up, I have one more question, if that's okay. So growth as a musician, if you're going to have this longevity, it can mean unlearning some things.
Mhm.
Was there anything you had to let go of in order for you to push forward and be where you are today that you could share with us?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's a very good question because there's tons of like specific, like technical things, that you
Mhm.
have to unlearn as you get better. But I think as I've gotten older, the one thing I've had to really let go of is the idea of how I'm perceived by other people.
Okay.
Because I wanted to I mean I play piano and I sing and in my mind I want to combine like I've talked about Blakey and the Jazz Messengers and I've talked about Ellington, of course I love Errol Garner, Fats Waller, all these people, but I love Sarah Vaughan and I love Dinah Washington and I love Louis Armstrong, and I feel like those things are not pigeonholed. It's like a wide variety of things. So when people come to my gigs, they hear me singing these beautiful Tin Pan Alley tunes, And then they're going to hear like an 11-minute, original with like an 8-minute drum solo. I don't know. And a lot of people over my career have said to me, you can't do that. You can't do those things together. You must pick one or the other. And I've sort of struggled with that, I think, mentally, and like, well, I don't know, maybe they're right. Um, but that's what I want to do, and that's what I'm gonna do. And I feel like as I get older, I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
No, definitely, no, definitely. You have to, you're staying true to yourself, and that's again, like that's what makes a true artist who's just going to be themselves authentically and not concern themselves with those, societal musical constraints that there are.
Yeah,
I guess you could
exactly.
go. But no,
Exactly.
this is great. So Champion, where can everybody find you on social media and your website and stuff if you could share that?
So my website is my name, champion.net, but my name is spelled a little bit differently than the word. So it's Champian, like champion. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram, X, and YouTube at Champion Fulton.
Oh, beautiful. No, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Abe. It was really nice.
Yeah, good to see you.
Good to see you too.